Greetings, fellow humans. My name is Alistair Lord and I am the Renaissance Yorkshireman. Today I'm here talking with Alan Leach, the drummer of Shed 7 and, what would you say, speed quiz entrepreneur?
I've got a few hats. I'm not actually the drummer in Shed 7 anymore, as you know, Al. I walked away from that, or it depends what you want to call it. We're on a break. I'm not in the band anymore anyway.
Right.
But we're all still friends. I'm going to go watch them play at the Museum Gardens in a few weeks. My son's band are supporting.
Right.
So there's the Shed 7 hats. I also have like this tech business, what's doing all right now, which is quiz related, and I've tried a lot of things. I did my own solo album, so you can call you can actually you don't have to call me a drummer anymore. You can call me a musician because I did my own solo album.
So what were you playing as a solo artist?
On that album, I played most of the things, most of the stuff on the album. I had a go at, but then luckily I was in with a guy, a good engineer, stroke producer, friend of mine now, Mickey. Everything I couldn't play, he would play. But I had a few friends come in and do stuff as well. Chris Elm, Joe Johnson, our son, he played on it a bit.
Right, nice one.
Yeah, did that answer your question? I haven't done anything like this for a long time.
A lot of different hats.
Yeah,
a lot of different hats. No, that answers my question. So I mean, we're in the run up to the general election. It's Friday today. The general election's next Thursday. I mean, what do you make of the political situation in the UK?
If I'm honest, until you contacted me and mentioned the general election, I was only very vaguely aware that it was even happening. There was a time where I did take an interest. I was a big fan of Jeremy Corbyn. I got really stuck in then, and I may have even had his little poster in my window. But ever since he got shafted, or whatever you think, I just liked him. I just liked the guy. I wasn't a massive Labour fan. I just really warmed to him, and I thought, wow, someone who isn't a tool. And then since then, I've just kind of washed my hands of it. Really, I know who Keir Starmer is. I could, point him out in a lineup, but that's about it.
Right.
And even when someone mentions Rishi Sunak's name, I have to question: is that the Prime Minister, or is that the head of, the Health Secretary or something? That's how kind of distant I am from it all, or how I've kind of just lost interest in it, really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's easy to be cynical. I mean, I'm standing as a candidate in York because it's like I feel that I've got to do something, and it's kind of like it plays to my skill set. But I know what you mean. I was a big fan of Jeremy Corbyn as well, and I think he did. I think he stood up against the establishment, and they shot him down, basically.
Yeah, that's how it felt to me. And it's not like I'm a massive sort of, extreme left-wing sort of person. I don't know where I fit. I just liked the guy. I just thought he's the first politician in my lifetime where I thought I'd actually like to go and walk out the door and make the effort to go and vote for him. I did vote for him, and then but that just all went tits, as they say, didn't it?
All went pear-shaped.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I just this particular general election, I've just and probably the one before as well. Well, all of the general elections since Jeremy Corbyn had to go, I've just kind of backed off from, really, and kind of glazed over with it all. And after COVID as well, the weird thing is I used to be I would have considered myself a left-wing person, flitting between Liberal and Labour, sort of ideals. But then with the whole COVID thing, I just felt let down quite a bit by the people on the left as well, who are, people who I knew, people in politics, people in entertainment, who I just thought had a decent head on the shoulders. That I think they all seem to lose the plot. And then after that, I now look at myself and think, if I was a voter, would I be right wing or left wing anymore? And I actually don't know. So that's why I'm kind of, I've just lost interest in it, really.
Right. Well, I do know what you mean, because I kind of feel quite similar in many respects. So I mean, I more come from the kind of left wing tradition, but I find these days I'm in disagreement with most lefties about most stuff.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I mean, during the COVID thing, I think it seemed like people took complete leave of their senses, and
But then likewise they thought I took leave of my senses as well, and and I now look back and feel reasonably sort of, well, there's things I'd do differently, but I think on the other side, the people who were pushing for lockdowns and wearing masks and vaccinations, I'd like to think they're sat at home feeling a bit dafter than what I am. But you don't know, they might be still sat at home thinking it was the right thing to do, even though the economy's gone to shit and COVID's vanished.
Right.
All but vanished, but I don't know. And to be honest, I feel a little bit uncomfortable talking about it because I'm just glad it's gone. And even just talking about it, the fear comes back of what if that was to happen again. Because it was just a horrible time. Because I did all right I was doing quizzes and I was keeping myself entertained and I was playing the drums and doing videos with our family. People assume that I enjoyed COVID and it was a good thing for me. And while I managed to keep myself busy and entertain myself and entertain a few people at the same time, it was probably the most stressful time in my life. I didn't like it at all. I didn't like just the confusion of it and the fact that why do I smell a rat and just think this isn't right? The whole locking everything down and everyone just taking the government at the word. Why do I feel like that and not many of my friends and people who I admire in entertainment and that? Why are they all looking at me like I'm an idiot? Do you know what I mean? And I found it really confusing, and I still find it confusing now. So just talking about it now, it brings it all back in not a very good way, really.
Right.
To me, it's weird. And I mean, people used to. If you thought like I did, you were labelled a conspiracy theorist, even though I didn't have any theories. I had zero theories about this is what they're doing, this is why they're doing it. I just felt like something was wrong about it, and it just felt wrong.
Something was fishy.
So I smelt a rat, so to speak, and I still don't know what I still don't have any conclusions. It smelt fishy, but by saying that, you were labelled an idiot. You were COVID, labelled a Trump supporter. Oh, you must be a Trump supporter if you feel like that. If you're against, if you feel that there's something weird about everyone getting vaccinated and everyone wearing masks and the lockdowns, you must be a Trump supporter. And I mean, I think my Jeremy Corbyn poster would prove, otherwise that that I couldn't be further from.
Or an anti-vaxxer.
Or an anti-vaxxer. Yeah, you just got labelled all these things. So just talking right now, I'm not in a rush to talk about it because it just makes. I'm just so pleased it's all just gone away, and I'm just making the most of it being gone away, and because daftness could come back again, couldn't it?
Yeah.
People haven't stopped being stupid, have they? Just because
that is very true. People have not stopped being stupid. Funnily enough, I think bizarrely there is something that Jeremy Corbyn and Donald Trump have in common, and that is that the enemies of Jeremy Corbyn think that not being Jeremy Corbyn is a policy, and the enemies of Donald Trump think that not being Donald Trump is a policy.
Yeah.
Whereas it's not. Do you know what I mean? You actually do need to have policies. It's not just a case of I'm not the other guy.
Yeah.
Which, as I say, their enemies both thought that was reasonable. Okay, so on a slightly different topic then.
Yeah.
So. I'm standing on 5 policies.
Yeah.
Right. So my third one is a referendum on the royal family.
Okay.
Now I feel that as taxpayers, I thought when Queen Elizabeth died, it would be legit to have some kind of open conversation on the future of the monarchy, since they cost the UK taxpayers a lot of money. What do you think?
I've always been quite on the anti-royal camp. I was a big fan of Morrissey, probably guided me a little bit on that, and I don't dislike them as people, but you've got to question why anyone exists for doing very little and getting all that money and getting worshipped for as if they're almost like a deity, like a godlike entity, and they're untouchable. You've got to question why. But these days, I find that the politicians who are in it for the money annoy me more than what the royal family do, probably. But I'm not saying, if you were to say to me now that the royal family are all going to get jobs in IT and fish and chip shops and things,
right,
and have to do it, I'd give it the thumbs up.
Right. So my fourth policy, I'm standing on evidence-based UK drug law policy,
Yeah.
and to stop the UK's involvement in America's catastrophic war on drugs, which started in June 1971, the month that I was born, right? So it's literally been going my whole life. Now, I mean, you've been in the music industry, and like, you know, music and drugs, it's not like a big secret that they often go together. I mean, what's your sort of take
Well,
on
I
this
suppose
kind
being
of thing?
in the music industry, you know, being myself, you know, a white middle-aged man, who likes drugs, you know, it's no secret. I used to when I was younger more, so I've never really, it being illegal hasn't been as big a problem for me as what it probably has been for people in not such privileged positions as myself. I definitely think if I'd had to, you know, potentially avoid going to court, going to prison, just to be able to enjoy taking acid or mushrooms or whatever it was I wanted to do, I would definitely give that, you know, I would definitely say that was unfair and that was wrong. But I haven't really experienced that because I've been lucky, because you're in a band and someone will always nip out and get you something
Right.
so
Quite handy.
I'm probably the wrong person to ask. But you know, I'm not so into it anymore. But I still like I went to Isle of Wight festival at the weekend, and I had some mushrooms, and it was glorious. It was absolutely glorious. But then you're in a situation where no one's trying to, you know, no one's going to come and arrest you for having a handful of mushrooms. If you've got a bag full of mushrooms, it might be a different story in a festival like that. But yeah, in America, it must be awful when when all you want to do is just get a little bit high, and you're worried, you know, for your safety, and
well,
it just shouldn't. It shouldn't.
Freedom.
It shouldn't be. Oh, but you know, you could maybe argue. I don't know what your policy is, but stuff like heroin and that, you could argue is a lot more dangerous and life crippling, I would have thought, than mushrooms and weed and stuff like that. So I don't have a massive opinion on it, but certainly the drugs that I like should be made legal anyway. Should we put it that way? Yeah.
Right.
So if it's on my list,
psychedelics and weed.
yeah, if it's on the list of things that I like taking, then it should definitely be legalised. Should we put it that way?
Right. Nice one. Nice one. So we're both born and grew up in York.
Yeah.
Right. Now I lived abroad for a long time. Obviously, as part of your music career, you toured around and stuff. But we both live in York now. So I mean, you know, what's your take on the glorious city of York?
I love it. I think it's great, and I think it's a very different place to what it was when we were kids. We probably should mention the only reason me and Alice didn't know each other is we went to same Sunday school, didn't we?
Yeah.
Our parents used to send us to Sunday school so they could just
Methodist Sunday school.
You have a different. We mentioned when I talked to you the other day that you didn't mind it. I absolutely hated it.
I loved it.
I saw it for what it was. It was a way for my dad to just sit and read the paper for 2 hours and get us out of his hair.
Right.
He didn't go and sing them awful songs and do all that daft stuff. But you quite liked it, didn't you?
I loved it. I loved it. Yeah, I mean,
You're weird.
well, when I was young, I had a great singing voice, and I used to love to sing. I mean, it's a shame, you know. I mean, I had a soprano, lovely singing voice. I sang in the school choir and stuff. Did a solo in the school play. Yeah. But then, you know, got to age 12, 13, and that was the end of my singing career. But
so you were there for the singing.
Mostly, well, my grandparents went, so my grandparents were big Methodists, and I mean, I would say when I was young, I was a Christian in the sense that, like, children often are, in that kind of naive way that, like, you know, now obviously, I mean, I became an atheist when I was 14, my father died when I was 14, and like, I remember this conversation I had with my RE teacher, and that was, you know, and that killed my religion at that point. Now I became a Buddhist later on, you know, and I mean, I took refuge as a Buddhist. I ordained as a monk in Thailand, briefly, not for very long, but...
Did you get bored?
Well, no, it's kind of like, so in Buddhism, right, so in Christianity, if you want to become a Christian, you go and get baptized, right? Yeah. Now in Buddhism, it's called taking refuge, right? So taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Now, my ex-wife is Thai. I used to live in Thailand. And in Thailand, sometimes people will get ordained as a monk for one day.
Okay.
Right. Now, I know this sounds bizarre to a lot of British people, right? But so, for example, when I went to my father-in-law's funeral, everyone there was Thai. I was the only white person there. They don't speak English. It was just my ex-wife who spoke English. But I mean, I speak pretty reasonable Thai. Anyway, two of her brothers, like, had their heads shaved and they were ordained in the morning. They were wearing the orange robe. So at the funeral, they were there as monks. And then in the evening, they were like disordained, right? So they were like, literally, they were monks for like 10 hours during the day. And it's like, it's a sign of respect to their father that they ordain for the day for his funeral. Okay. So in Thailand, it's reasonably common that men in particular, some women, but men get ordained for a short period of time. Now, historically, it would have been the period of the rainy seasons. Right. So they'd be ordained as a monk for like 3 months, and then that would be it. They would go back to being, you know, a farmer or whatever. Sort of got sidetracked here. I'm not quite sure. We were talking about religion.
Religion, yeah. Well, so we used to go to that Sunday school, didn't we? And I used to hate it, but I mean, I quite like reading biblical stuff, and I'm interested in biblical stuff now. I'm far from an atheist, but I'm also far from a Christian. I find it all fascinating. I like reading about it, but I've no interest in obeying any of the rules. I just obey my own little rules. But I think it's all fascinating now. But at the time, it was mind-numbing. You just got some really boring people, telling you Bible stories. That age, when you've got an Atari video game at home waiting for you, you don't want to be listening to Bible stories and singing awful songs, do you?
Right. Well, the way I remember it was, I remember being in the juniors really reasonably well, right, and really enjoying it, because I seem to remember just singing and playing games. But when I moved up to the senior group, and it was all Bible stories, I left like within a month or two of that. So maybe so it could be that we're remembering slightly different things. Different, but I do remember the Bible stories in the senior group being really boring, and I left very shortly after that. Yeah.
So anyway, we were at York, weren't we? So back then, York, I think York was quite a rough place. It probably wasn't if you lived, compare it to living in Leeds or Manchester or somewhere. But it's a lot nicer now than it was. And I say to this to my kids and friends and their kids, is they all say, it was things were a lot better when you were younger. And I think, you're joking, aren't you? If a 12-year-old boy walked to school a mile away and didn't get bullied or picked on by some other kids, he'd be having a good day. Do you know what I mean? And I say to my kids, if you went back to the early 80s when I was 12 years old, and
Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah, you wouldn't. And you had a button where it could bring you back to here. I think it'd be a day before you pressed it. When you had one pair of shoes and you had, which isn't me saying that I had done to it. It was just the way it was. We didn't have double glazing. We didn't have central heating. We didn't have nice duvets on the bed. You just have a blanket. So I think we've got York's a brilliant place to live.
Yeah. No, I love living in York. I mean, it's funny what you say about the differences between when we were young and our kids are young, because my daughter's 21 and so similar age to your kids. And I think back in the late 70s and the 80s, it was kind of like nobody really had anything. Do you know what I mean? So you didn't really stick out by not having that much. There wasn't the posturing and stuff that there is now. But I think in the sense that I think there's more mental health issues now because of social media and phones, and kids are exposed to so much stimulation that I mean, it does cause them mental health issues. But at the same time, I mean, with Margaret Thatcher, it almost felt like the class war was palpable. Do you know what I mean? That she was quite sort of quite forward about putting the boot into large sections of the working class, you know, the miners, people from Liverpool, you know, whatever it was. Whereas now, I don't know, I would say, you know, that these kind of things are more kind of done under the radar. Do you know what I mean? They're not as kind of in your face, but you know, there's been a huge transfer of wealth from poor and middle class to the rich.
But likewise, when I was a kid, because you didn't have social media, and I would never watch the news. I don't think kids sat and watched the news. Whereas now, kids, it's popping up on the phones all the time. This prime minister's doing this, and this, you know, this country's threatening to go to war with this. It was probably going on, and our parents all knew about it. But as a child, I probably barely even knew who Margaret Thatcher was when I was sort of 12, 13 years old. I had no interest in it. I was going out playing, doing stuff I shouldn't be doing. But I was never walking to school thinking, oh, I hope Margaret Thatcher doesn't do this to the miners or anything like that. At that age, wasn't interested at all. Whereas now, my kids will have more of a handle on, you know, what's going on in Ukraine and stuff like that, because it's flashing up on the phone all the time.
Right.
I think we were probably a bit more sheltered from it, unless I was the weirdo and all my mates were there, like sitting down to the 6 o'clock news on a night, religiously watching it with the parents and discussing it and things.
Right. Well, with me, when I was young, both my parents were members of the Liberal Party. Okay. Right, they're Liberal Democrats now. So when I was young, one of my dad's best mates, this guy Vic Moore, he used to campaign for him to be a Liberal councillor in Hewitt, just like where we are now. Yeah. And our house on East Parade was used as like the Liberal, I don't know what you'd call it, headquarters, okay. Whatever. So when I was young, there was a lot of this kind of politics was around, and you know, I mean, my parents were kind of into the news and what was going on. So I guess because I had that going on in the background, I became, you know, aware of politics fairly early doors, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it didn't really get spoke about in lessons at school, as far as I remember. And my mum, she'd have the Liberal Democrat, the Liberal poster in the window. She voted Liberal. I don't think my dad was that bothered. But our house was more, you know, everyone's into music. No one, right. You know. My mum would, like I say, she'd have the poster in the window, but that was about it, and it never really got discussed, the news and things. And I'm quite thankful for that, right. Really, because I think, you know, you got the rest of your life to worry about all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I've come full circle and stopped worrying about it again, right, which is quite liberating, really. Yeah.
Well, funnily enough, I was quite a worrier when I was young. I started worrying early doors. And now I'm not. Again, I've arrived at this place in my life where I don't really worry about that much.
If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And you say that to your kids as well. That's what I say to my kids, is that, you know, they'll say, oh, this might be, it looks like this is going to happen, it's going to end the world, or this is going to happen and we're all going to be, you know, have no food. But I will say to them, all my life, there's always been a threat of something, whether it was the Cold War or the, you know, the minor. There was always something going on.
Yeah.
And you know, which was going to end humanity, and it was going to be the, you know. And I'm 54 now, and it's never happened. None of these bad things have happened to me where I am. They have obviously happened to people in other parts of the world. So my advice is just, you know, try not to worry about it, and you know, worry about it when it happens, because there's always a slim chance that it might not happen to you.
Yeah. So you've been on tour, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, what's your experience of travelling the world as a musician?
As most musicians would probably concur, my wife was watching that Celine Dion documentary the other day, and she was saying she's toured the world loads of times but barely saw any of it.
Right.
And there is an element of that. Obviously, you can. It probably isn't as bad as it was for Celine Dion, because she probably couldn't go out and see much because everyone would recognise her. But a lot of the time, you are just in and out. I remember we went to we didn't tour the world as much as some other bands. We weren't massive. We didn't really break any of these places. We went to America, but you would literally go to New York one day. And then the next day you were playing, say, San Francisco, next day you were playing in LA. This is when you're trying to get a foot in the door and establish yourself, and it's more about kind of meeting the labels and stuff out there. And I don't remember really going out and seeing much of New York or any of them things at the time. I mean, I've been back since, Went to Thailand a couple of times, but we only ever saw Bangkok. We never went anywhere other than Bangkok. You'd just go into Bangkok, and because that's where the gig was, you'd do that. Same with Japan. You'd just go in the big 2 or 3 big cities, and but I am that much of a traveller anyway.
Right.
I don't. My wife likes travelling. She has to kind of twist my arm to go on holidays and things like that. I'm not. Everywhere just seems quite a long way away, doesn't it? It seems like an effort.
That is kind of true.
Yeah, most things are too far away for me to. But like you say, it's, then you feel guilty then when you look back, because you think, well, you were there anyway. Maybe you should have gone out and seen a bit more of it. But I mean, I wasn't even the worst one in the band. I do like trying different foods and that. But there was people in the band who just, you'd go all the way to Japan or Thailand, and the first question would be, where's the nearest McDonald's?
Right.
I wasn't like that. I do like sampling food and things, and I would go. We did a few touristy sort of things, I suppose, but most of the time, and we were big drinkers. We liked partying, so most of the days you were recovering from the night before and getting ready to start doing it all again. So, which doesn't sound very clever now I'm saying it, but at the time it felt like the normal thing to do.
Yeah. Well,
stay up till 3 in, get up at 1 o'clock the next afternoon, have something to eat, and before you know it, you're doing a sound check again, or you're travelling. Even we went to Australia about 5 years ago. And again, it just felt like you didn't see a lot of Australia further away than sort of like 2 miles away from the gig. You might want to go for a little wander, but everywhere, a lot. If you're in like a metropolis, everywhere's just the same. You look around, you're in Australia, but you could be in Birmingham.
Just about anywhere,
anywhere. So
Birmingham, but hot.
Yeah. So to answer that question, bit of a non-answer from me, I'm afraid, about travelling. I can take it or leave it.
Right. Well, I have to say, if they weren't trying the food in Thailand, they were certainly missing a trick. Because,
they did try the food. Big Mac, £1/4 with rice.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, Thai food is one of the great cuisines of the world, really. I have to say, I love Thai food.
I mean, I'd love to go now and try the real Thai food. I love Thai, I love Vietnamese, all the different, foods. I love it, but I probably should have stamped my feet a little bit more and said, let's go out and try some foods, but I was happy to kind of just you
go along with the drinking and that.
I'll go on, let's get a Domino's pizza
and drink heavily.
And drink a lot, yeah. So I probably wasn't as interested in food then as what I am now. It probably would be a different story if I went now.
But something I've noticed from my daughter and her friends compared to our generation. So I mean, I remember, I started going to the pub on weekends when I was like 16. By the time I was like 18 and 19, I was, going to the pub reasonably often and, or drinking. And our generation, we were quite heavy drinkers.
Yeah.
Now my daughter and her generation, I wouldn't say that they don't drink at all, but most of them, actually one of my nephews does like a beer, but my daughter and most of her mates, they barely drink.
No, ours are like that. They will all drink. Our Betsy was out on a prom last night, so she had a few, but she hadn't got a headache or anything this morning. I think I can count on probably 2 fingers how many times. I've got 3 kids, all who are like drinking age now. Betsy today, actually, she's 18th birthday. But I can count on probably 2 fingers how many times they've actually got drunk to the point that they were sick. Whereas if I wasn't sick when you were that age, you think you hadn't had a proper night out, didn't you? I wasn't sick last night, it must have been a bad beer.
Yeah.
It didn't make me sick.
What's wrong? I only had 5.
It's definitely changed for the better, obviously. And I'd be disappointed if they didn't drink at all. I think, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I think you are missing out on, I think
an aspect of British social life.
Yeah, and I think it's just. You don't want to just feel the same all the time. That's why I take like the mushrooms and things, and you don't want to just feel the same all the time. It's just about doing something to make you feel a bit different.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah.
And admittedly, you don't want to be waking up with going to work with sick down your t-shirt every day. But I think people are missing out if they don't drink at all. at that age, because it's just drinking's great, kids.
Drink more.
Drink more.
It's good for you.
Drink more, be sick more, and yeah, I am half joking, I think.
The more you drink, the funner it gets.
Yeah, the funner it gets, the cooler you are. When I drink, I get funnier, better looking. I'm a faster runner when I'm drunk. I'm better at fighting. Women love me. Something to be said for it. I'm pretty sure about all them things is true.
Reasonably sure.
Yeah.
Right, well, thank you for your time, Alan.
You're welcome.
And yeah.
Cheers, Al.
Cheers.
I'll see you in Sunday school on Sunday morning.
Yeah, down at the Methodist Church.
Yeah, down at the Methodist.